Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review of The Walking Dead. And this week, the episode was the 4th of Season 5, and it was entitled Slabtown. And, okay, just gotta be honest here, guys. Probably the worst episode so far of Season 5 for sure. And probably one of the worst episodes of the series so far, I'd say. Now, when I say worst, that sounds a little bit more harsh than it actually is. I mean, definitely it's kind of right up there with right down there, I should say, with Still. If you guys remember that episode from Season 4, I think it was around episode 12. The episode that was it was like all dedicated to Beth and Daryl. That is considered by many to be the worst. It's fairly unpopular, and this one kind of fits right along with that. And that episode is unpopular mainly because of Beth, it being so Beth heavy and Beth focused. And this episode is all dedicated to her and what's going on with her and where she's at. And granted, we did see a new location. We got introduced to basically a different group of survivors, but really our main focus is on what Beth is going to do about it, what Beth is thinking and things like that. And I don't know, I'm just going to say I'm not the biggest fan of Beth. I wanted her to die for a little while now. I mean, I don't feel quite as harshly about her now, but I don't think she is nearly interesting enough to warrant an entire episode to show where she's at. I don't think she's nearly that important or interesting to the rest of the show. Well, that's just my opinion. I know that she does have a fan base out there. And I definitely don't support her with Daryl either. I think it makes a lot more sense for Carol and Daryl to go together if it happens one of those ways. But okay, so I wasn't saying it's going to be an awful episode just because Beth is going to be the focus. I wasn't going into it judging it that harshly. But I'll admit that left a kind of feeling in me, you know what I mean, going into it. But, and the episode did have some good points to it. I mean, we found out what happened to Beth for one. And basically, I believe they're back in the city, Atlanta, so it was actually really cool to see that again. Some of the shots you could tell was CGI, with the smoke coming out of the buildings and stuff like that. But the city looked pretty good for the most part. It was nice to see that again, the big city area when we're used to the forest, woody type of area. And, we got introduced to basically a new survivor group. And what their thing is, they're basically running at this hospital, and they recruit people, or supposedly recruit people, but they probably take most people in against their will, at least the patient type of characters like Joan, Beth, and Noah. Noah being, I forget his name, but Mr. Everybody Hates Chris, the kid from that. They take people like them in, and they force them to work every day. And they say it's all for the greater good of, helping everyone. But really, they're pretty tyrannical, especially the leader of the group. She is supposedly a cop. And there's a few supposed cops there. And her name is Dawn. I think she may actually be a cop, at least before the apocalypse, obviously. But I'm not sure about the rest of them. And Dawn is the one who's saying it's all for the greater good. And, she's really strict and really just firm, and I don't know how to describe her. I don't want to say bitchy, even though she kind of is. But, and then we find out that there's basically a whole power struggle between her and a character named, the name is escaping me right now, but we basically found out there's a power struggle between her and another guy who was kind of running things before we met them. And she basically took care of him, according to the doctor here. I forget the doctor's name as well, but he was the one with the balding hairstyle and the glasses and stuff, and he was the only doctor they had there. because he had forced Beth to put down the only other doctor they had. And what was interesting about that was it seemed like the doctor also purposely gave Beth the wrong medications to give him, because he knows that if there's any other doctor that can do what he do at the hospital, Don and the rest of them will see him as more expendable and thus more willing to hurt him or do more or inflict more upon him. So his idea is basically, if they only have me, then they'll protect me. They won't treat me quite as badly as the others. But I actually kind of like the actor who played our main doctor here. He wasn't too bad. He's one of the slightly better people there. I know Beth kind of questions why he's staying there when he could just leave, but it's kind of obvious how they run things. It's kind of difficult to do that. There's also a character named Gorman, and he's one of the other cops at the hospital helping Dawn, and he is basically one of the biggest douchebags you could meet on the show that we have on the show so far. There's this awkward scene with him and Beth. He basically forces her to let him stick a sucker in her mouth, and what that implies, and later he tries to rape her, but we'll get to that later. Excuse the voice crack. And speaking of everybody hates Chris as Noah, he actually did decent, I think. He's one of the better ones in the episode, I believe. And we also basically find out that what they do at this hospital is that they basically go out looking for survivors, and they pick out who looks like the weakest or who looks like they can't really rise up against us or do anything about what we're doing at the hospital. They pick them out and they bring them back and force them to work, like I said. And if they see anyone who who looks like they could pose any kind of threat, they leave behind. And that's kind of what happened to Noah and his father, from what I recall. And Noah said he came there looking for his uncle too, but I doubt the uncle is anyone we know. Maybe it's Morgan. No, I'm kidding. But it could be, but no, I don't think so. So we get a little bit of that about him. So we really know they're a lot more devious than they're originally put on. And just by the way they act, we know they're bad guys. We know they're bad guys just based on the way they act. And I did like the tone of this episode, I will say that. I mean, I like the change in scenery. I think the actress, I'm losing a lot of names here, but the actress who actually played the Dawn Lerner character, I thought she did a pretty solid job. She's antagonistic enough, no question. And even when there's a point where it shows the doctor can't save a certain person, she gets really upset, but she won't, hurt him or do too much to him anyway, because she knows he's the only doctor they can rely on. So instead of, when she gets mad at him, instead of hitting him or doing something like that, she turns on and just smacks Beth right in the face. So that's kind of funny. Again, I'm the biggest fan of Beth, and she's been kind of annoying for the most part throughout the whole series. But so it kind of shows how Dawn is, and let's see. And there's also, it shows this girl, I think I mentioned her name a few minutes ago, Joan. She apparently tried to escape, and then she got herself bit on purpose, I think. And then one of the most gruesome scenes we've seen in the show actually is where they hold her down, and Beth is forced to help hold her down, and they cut the arm off, amputee it. Oh, okay, amputee it. What word am I looking for here? Amputate. Okay. That was almost very embarrassing. It kind of was already. But they amputate her arm, and you can tell she knows the true nature of how they are there, and she later tries to warn Beth. And probably the climactic scene of the episode, well, before we get to that, Beth and Noah come up with this plan to get the keys from Dawn's office, and they basically find a way. They drop bodies down an elevator shaft to get rid of them, and the doctor says that's dignified. But so they figure out, I have to climb down the elevator shaft with like a rope or like a sheet stay tied together. Basically, they get the idea to escape. It's the only way, apparently. And but what happens before, or just after that, or just before that, I'm not sure. I can't remember. But we basically see Beth go into Joan's office to look for the keys, and we see Joan's. Oh, Beth goes into Dawn's office to look for the keys, and we see Joan's body, and she apparently killed herself. But, didn't destroy her brain, so obviously her idea was, I'm going to turn into a walker, so when Dawn comes in here, I'm just going to, attack her and maybe bite her or kill her, maybe it could work out that way, get some justice even in death. But, what ends up happening is that Gorman catches Beth getting the keys and, going through Dawn's cabinets and stuff like that. Not cabinets, like her drawers. Her cabinets basically. And this was when that near rape scene I mentioned earlier takes place. He starts trying to basically force her into having sex with him, but that doesn't work out too well because Joan starts turning, and Beth basically pushes him into her, and he gets bitten and basically devoured by Joan as a walker. So that was kind of cool. I actually thought, since the whole Dawn thing would be going on for a few episodes at least, I thought they'd kind of drag this guy getting his gruesome death a little longer. Like, I thought eventually Rick or Daryl would run into him, just beat him down or kill him brutally. But it was kind of cool to see him get his comeuppance so quickly. So that was really cool, really gruesome, really brutal, really nice. And let's see, and she basically runs out of there, and she sees Dawn, coming down the hall, and she basically tells him that Gorman wanted to talk to her about something or something along those lines, and so Dawn goes into the office, and that gives Beth and Noah a chance to escape down that shaft. Except, of course, a walker pops out, and Noah falls, and they're both a little bit injured, but especially Noah, and he's limping, and they're going through the dark basement of the hospital, basically. And this part was kind of funny to me. Beth has a gun, okay? She took it off Gorman. Except, she all of a sudden turns into a great shot. I mean, she's hitting Walker. There's a light flashing, but other than that, it's really, really dark in this basement. And she's just nailing Walkers in the head left and right. Once in a while, hitting him in the chest or somewhere a little bit lower, but most of the time, she's hitting him right in the head, nailing him right there. When did Beth become such a good shot? Oh, man. Do all the characters have to be extremely capable like this, or what? Because last we've seen her, she was pretty clumsy and could hardly protect herself, so I'm not sure why she suddenly is such a good handler of the weapons, but that was a little annoying, and especially when they actually get outside, they have this slow motion scene of her and Noah trying to get out of there. Noah's limping, and walkers are surrounding him, and she's just gunning him down, left and right. Again, mostly headshots, killing him instantly. And but other cops Dawn had working there eventually run out, and they catch Beth, but Noah actually manages to get outside the fence, and he gets into the streets and supposedly gets away. That gives Beth a little bit of satisfaction. And basically the final scene of it is where we see Beth, she pulls out I think it was some kind of needle, or I forget what it was exactly, a syringe of some kind, I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of things lately, but she's going to have to stab the doctor for some reason, for finding out that he set her up with the whole med sling with killing the other doctor. But before she does that, someone else is wheeled into the hospital on a stretcher, and it turns out to be an unconscious Carol. And I've read some things that hinted about this past week, but it's a little bit interesting. We're wondering how Carol got there, because last we knew, on the show anyway, is that she was with Daryl, trying to follow that car to wherever, where they think would lead to where Beth is. So obviously we don't know what happened yet. We don't know where Daryl is. We don't know why Carol's knocked out in the first place. I did hear a theory, though, spoilers, she may have been run over, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure we'll find out. And here's my early prediction for next week. I think that Noah will probably have run into Daryl, and that's who Daryl is telling to come on out in the last, at the end of the other episode, Four Walls on a Roof. I believe he has Noah with him, and I believe we'll see Noah eventually show the group where the hospital's at so they can try and rescue Carol and Beth. And obviously, Dawn doesn't have any idea what Carol's actually capable of, and she probably considers her fairly weak and not really threatening, but she's in for a bit more than she planned on, so we'll see that play out. But, so there's my run-through of the episode. Again, I'm not really interested in Beth as a character. I don't really care about her. I don't care if she lives or dies. Emily Kinney, or I think that's the actress's name, I don't think she's anything special acting-wise. She's decent, very, very slightly improved upon from last season, but still not too much of a difference. Again, the actress who played Dawn gave a decent performance so far. The actress who played Joan, even though she's already dead, she did alright too. The guy who played the doctor, and let's see. And Everybody Hates Chris did a decent job as well. We all did just as good, if not better than Beth, so. Like I said, it was cool seeing this new setting, seeing this new group, and just getting an answer to where Beth's at, but other than that, I don't really care about it. It's a little bit weird not seeing our main group and, Rick and the rest of them for an entire episode, let alone for a character that I don't really find interesting enough to warrant an entire episode dedicated to them in the first place. I mean, sure, we had those 2 episodes in Season 4 that were all focused on where the governor's at and what he's doing, without really showing the group at all. But I actually find the governor very interesting and, layered to a certain degree. So I found those episodes focusing on him worth it, and I thought those were some of the best episodes. I really like them. But I don't find Beth nearly on the same level of interesting or compelling. So this wasn't really worth an entire episode, I don't think. And, it was sort of interesting, but I was really hoping whatever is going on here was a little bit more complex. It's actually kind of simple with the whole Dawn killing whoever was in charge before, and, them saying it's for the greater good, but, it's actually fairly tyrannical and twisted. It's kind of simple stuff. So I'm hoping this doesn't last too much longer. I'm hoping for it to end by the mid-season finale at least, but I don't see why they're going to need this many episodes to end it when they only had a few with Gareth and the rest of them. But either way, I'm hoping it ends soon. Not awful, but probably the worst episode of the season so far, and one of the lesser episodes of the series, long still. Except that had some interesting psychological moments with Daryl, so still is probably slightly better than this one in my opinion. Possibly. I'm not sure. It's really debatable. Never mind. But, not awful. Just not nearly on par or as high as the bar usually is for The Walking Dead. But I'll still be tuning in next week. So I'll catch you guys next time. And, peace. Oh yeah, I may be doing a Freddy vs. Jason movie review this weekend. So be on the lookout for that.